With the coaching, so I listen really carefully to what the young people are saying and ask them open, curious questions to get them thinking about their situation and maybe different pathways that are open to them as to how they can see themselves improving their confidence or resilience. But sometimes they'll get a bit stuck and unsure as to I don't know how to feel better. I don't know what I can do. And so that's where, with the positive psychology interventions and research and knowledge that I've built up, I can offer some interventions for them to choose whether that's something that might work for them or not. And so, for example, we often maybe look at what their character strengths are and look at the research around strengths. And sometimes they really like that session because quite often they're coming with their worries, their doubts, their insecurities. However, when we do the strengths, they realize they've got like honesty and bravery and leadership skills. Even just starting the coaching sessions with what's gone well this week, rather than just diving into what's not so good. Just getting them to think, oh, actually, well, this was actually good this week, and broadening that positive emotions, which will then, when we come into the coaching with them, the positive emotions will help them to see more opportunities, more pathways than what they might be able to see if they're in that more negative state of mind, where they're feeling more down, where our vision narrows and we can't actually take in and see as much opportunities that are maybe there. Like some people have, in a positive way, been able to reflect on this past year with COVID that actually I need to look after myself. I need to figure out what I should do for self-care. It's actually quite nice to take life at a slower pace and not be constantly working all the time. And this past year, I think, has helped some people to reflect on their mental health and to think how they can maintain that while still kind of go slowly transitioning back into the new normal when that happens. But also, unfortunately, there's also the other side of it, that the increased interest in mental health, there's that side where we're noticing more young people struggling even more than they were before this pandemic, and more articles and education thinking, right, what are we going to do? Like, how can we put in the support in place to help young people and staff and others in the community supporting these young people? And that's where I think coaching and like positive psychology or positive education type interventions are really important to bring into schools. So it is actually early intervention where we're proactively building positive mental health and well-being. We're not just waiting until young people are struggling and then referring them to a counsellor. If we can get more of that early intervention with the coaching and positive psychology and help young people learn about how they can actually proactively look after their mental health, just like they would look after their physical health, then hopefully down the line, they've built up a lot of the tools and strategies that they would potentially learn. Some resilience thinking skills, for example, they would potentially learn them with a counsellor. But why do we have to wait then to teach them these skills? We can teach them the skills now so that hopefully we prevent as many young people requiring that next step of support down the line. So yeah, the pandemic has created more anxious students, but even. It's created more anxious adults. It's created, this anxiety across everyone. And that's like quite normal. But then it's how can we help these young people and help others around us know how to manage that and get back to feeling safe and okay again. And how we use positive psychology a little bit is in terms of our thinking, because we have that negativity bias that is just innate in us. It's thanks to our ancestors from all those years ago, trying to stay alive and not getting eaten by a saber-toothed tiger. So we've got this innate negativity bias that's meant to keep us safe and protect us from harm. But sometimes that can go into overdrive when we are actually safe, but our brain thinks that we're not. So I actually talk through a cycle like that. So if you have a thought that you're going to fail that exam, how are you going to be feeling? Like, well, not motivated. I'm going to be feeling quite anxious and stressed and worried about things. And I was like, okay, what are you going to then do if you're feeling that way? So they say, well, I'll probably avoid studying because I'm not feeling great and like put my head in the stand basically. I'm saying, okay, then what are you then going to be thinking? I'm like, well, that I can't do it. And it's that kind of self-fulfilling prophecy where you're in that negative cycle. And then encouraging the students to think, right, okay, well, who says you're going to fail? Again, it's like challenging that thought that they're having and then creating a more helpful thought. So a more helpful thought they might come up with is that, okay, I'm struggling with this subject, but I'm going to study hard and try my best at that test and see how I get on. I was like, okay, if you have that thought, how are you feeling then? Well, yeah, a bit more happier, a bit more hopeful that I'll do okay and a bit more motivated to try. I'm like, if you're feeling that way, what is your actions going to be? And say, well, yeah, I probably will study a bit. I'll go and ask the teacher if I get stuck and say, okay, so now you're actually doing those positive things. It's going to help you get towards passing that little test or whatever. And when you do, what thought are you going to have? It's like, well, yeah, by giving it a go and trying, I was able to do quite well, better than I thought I would. And so then you get into more of a positive cycle of your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions. Talking through it's like if then statements that are quite good. So if I feel like checking my phone, then I will, like put it into another room or, turn it off completely and continue studying for the next 15 minutes. If I get home and I feel like putting on Netflix, then I'm going to get out my study planner and focus on it. So it's coming up with like the obstacles that might get in your way for success and coming up with the action plan of how you're going to overcome that if that situation arises. So the thing about building resilience in young people is, and it's really difficult for parents because they don't want to see their child struggle at all. They don't want to see their child get upset about work that they're trying to complete. But one of the key things that you can do is not to jump in and try to rescue them from that difficult task. Support them and guide them. And that's where some like open questions can come in quite good. So if your child is working through some tasks at home, like, get them to say, what's another way you could try to do that? Or how else could you come up with the answer? What else could you try? And encouraging the young person to explore the options and find the solution themselves. And if they can do that, that's what will then help build that bit of confidence. Oh, I've actually been able to do this. Whereas if we jump in too quickly and say, oh, well, the answer to that is 15, you're not giving them the chance to like maybe try it, get it wrong, and then try out again and get it right and build that resilience.